Hello and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be talking about Superman issue 41, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Eddie Barrows, colors by Iba Ferreira, and letters by Ulysses Areola. Zod's Kryptonite Kingdom takes a turn as the Eradicator archive chronicles Zod's hallucinations of Jor-El, who berates Zod for thinking he has any sort of purpose left in life. Zod ends up fighting the hallucinations, becoming enraged and deciding to take Jor-El's son's life and everything he holds dear, putting him on the path of destruction towards Earth. In the present, the Atom Project investigate the K-Zone covering Earth now, finding the radiation is now harmful and very aggressive towards humans alongside Kryptonians. Red Tornado knows that someone played with the mineral's compound structure as Power Girl and her containment team race to stop the K-Plague from spreading even more, but it's a battle they are very clearly losing. Power Girl making an appearance here is great. She's noticeably left out from the overall Superman family, and that's not like something that's like some sort of editorial mandate or anything, something that actually the character wanted. It's something that she was sorting out in her mini series from not too long ago, where she wanted to be separate from the rest of the Superman family and still come in every now and then and help out, and she just wanted to be her own person, hence why she changed her name to Paige as well. But I do like she got a little bit to do here and is with her own little team. And again, if this book had tie-ins, I'm sure she would be a tie-in with her and her containment team trying to battle the Kryptonite. The Atom asks for updates on El Caldero, but Tornado knows that Supergirl's team was captured by Zod's army and the Emerald City went dark not long after. Ray Palmer knows that the same thing happened to Tomorrow Man and Steel, who entered the city but then dropped off of tracking. Tornado knows that they would usually call for Superman in an incident like this, but he hopes that Superman is nowhere near the Emerald City. Inside the Kryptonite Kingdom though, Superman, clad in a Kryptonian warsuit, battles the armored General Zod across the city. John Mimo helps Lois out, wanting to get his mother away from the war zone, but Lois isn't leaving Clark or their friends and family behind to deal with Zod without her. She wants to find everyone they came into the city with and find President Castillo, since even though they never saw eye to eye, he'll probably want to restore order to his kingdom. Okay, so the book is now splitting our larger team, our larger Supergirl team, into smaller, more manageable groups, and it's probably for the best. It seems to be teams of two. Like here we have Lois and John, and then last issue we had Connor and Superboy Prime. It's odd because you'd think that doing that would mean, oh, they're going to go split off into tie-in books and we'll get to follow, you know, the Lois and John team up and the Superboy and Superboy Prime team up. But this event actually has no tie-ins whatsoever. It's just this main event. And I quite like that. I quite like we're not like watering down the story any more than it needs to be. And also while we're still seeing things like the Justice League and all that getting involved outside of the city across the Earth, it's keeping things focused solely on the Superman family and what they have to deal with inside El Caldero. Lois also staying to help further reinforces my theory that she might actually be getting her powers back by the end of this event, and maybe it becomes a permanent thing for her, since there is talk about the status quo changing once this event is over for the Superman family. So that's the only real thing I can think of that would make it change so drastically, that Lois gets powers and becomes Superwoman as a hero. It also gives Joshua Williamson another shot at doing more Superwoman stuff, since he brought the character in a couple of issues ago in the Superman ongoing and then kind of had to retire her because we had DCKO and Absolute Power offshoots and stuff like that. So he never really got a fair chance to properly use the character, and I criticized the book for that because it like couldn't decide whether she was to have the powers or not. It kept taking them away and then giving them back. So hopefully this is a chance for him to sort of do it right. The Kryptonites meanwhile try and intervene in Zod's battle with Superman, but he demands they stay back as Superman slams a huge crystal of kryptonite into the villain, figuring he would never use kryptonite as a weapon, but Zod has forced his hand. Zod smashes through the crystal like it's nothing, telling Superman that he's using the kryptonite now since he's finally thinking like a soldier, not like a scientist. Zod thinks the armor is preventing the fight from being over quick, and Superman agrees, thinking that it is holding them both back. Superman gives them some distance from the kryptonite by smashing Zod so hard in the face that it rips the arm off of his armor, sending the villain clear of the city and into a nearby beach, far away from the kryptonite. The slowly ripping of the armor off to reveal the, you know, the hero and the villain underneath, where then they can just get into a Superman versus Zod fight, is tons of fun. We're not jumping straight to that. We're getting a little bit of a preamble before that. And I love they're really going at it, especially since this is the first time they've seen each each other in a number of years, over 5 years, so they have a lot of catching up to do. Zod tells Superman that he won't get the chance for another hit like that, but Superman doesn't want to fight, since when they last left things, they had a truce between their families, and he wants to know what happened to New Kandor and to Zod and to Ursa. But this sends Zod into a rage and he attacks Superman again, telling him that their families are not friends, they are enemies. Zod begins to feel the yellow sun fueling his power again, but Superman is still weak thanks to the recent time travel adventure he went through. Zod also reveals it's also probably because of all of the kryptonite now covering the world and he cannot escape it, since Superman feels only agony from its presence, while Zod appreciates the pain he feels from the kryptonite, since it makes them equals. The idea of Zod loving the pain from kryptonite is interesting, and I wonder if beyond it making him and Superman equal in a fight, there's a bit of penance there for him, like he wants the pain thanks to everything he's gone through, his wife dying, planet blowing up, his son abandoning him. He feels like he's owed the pain since he couldn't stop any of that from happening. Kneel Before Zod kind of explored a little bit of this when he blew up the planet, and he felt like him being like the husk before being reborn as Zod was something he was owed because it's like his penance for what had happened. And it's cool seeing Williamson obviously have picked up on that and is running with that here as well. Zod comes for Superman, smashing the hero's armor apart as he tells Clark that in the past he wanted the hero to kneel before him, but now he wants Superman to be punished and know the pain he has known, even if it kills him. With his armor compromised, Superman feels the effects of the kryptonite even more as Zod grabs his head, revealing that he has learned a phrase while hiding out on Earth: an eye for an eye. Zod fires his heat vision at Superman's face, destroying the hero's right eye. Now this is something that Williamson actually set back up when he introduced Time Trapper into the Superman ongoing, with the being remembering Superman losing an eye. I figured we wouldn't actually get to see that, seeing as that whole story was about the future changing. It was based on like Time Trapper being killed by Superman, and then obviously we had DCKO where everything was kind of changed as well, but I guess it wasn't changed enough and it still ended up happening, which is very interesting. That's leading me to believe there's more to this whole, oh, time is not back to how it is then meets the eye, because Superman has said that while fixing Darkseid's problems, fix the timeline more or less, it's still out of balance, and we still don't exactly know why. It's one of the really fun ongoing mysteries of this event and of the DCU in general. There's something going wrong with time, even though Superman claimed to have fixed it. I'm also really down for a one-eyed Superman with an eye patch for a while. It's nice to actually see some visual and physical wounding happening from one of his fights, and one that looks like it might stick around for at least a little bit. Zod tells the wounded Superman that he became a general because he understood what was needed to win wars, and it's not strategy or cunning or power, it's his ability to never underestimate the enemy. He knows Superman is no warrior, wanting to leave him with one final gift, the knowledge that he will have his last breath amongst the pieces of his destroyed homeworld. Saying goodbye to Superman, Zod tosses him into some kryptonite spikes, but before he can be impaled by the radioactive mineral, Superboy and Superboy Prime swoop in the Supermobile and rescue Clark. Prime is excited that he got to save Superman, but Connor thinks that he did it, causing yet another argument to erupt between the two. I've been loving the bickering from these two. They're like an old married couple, and they can't do anything without arguing like children. But it's fun seeing them getting to work together, and I'm sure there's going to be something born out of this, because Williamson has said he has a plan for Prime and where he is going to go, and I'm intrigued to see what he's going to do with him and Connor, since they have a lot of baggage that needs to be unpacked. And I'm looking forward to seeing if we actually get to see that, be it in this series or in wherever Prime ends up going. Zod chases after the Supermobile, not thinking that they could hide anywhere because the world is now covered in kryptonite. But Eradicatrix contacts the General, telling him that she has what the General asked for. Zod immediately stops his chase, knowing that this is going to take priority, and then he will deal with Kal-El. Down in the dungeons of the Kryptonite Kingdom, the younger Clark and Supergirl sneak through the patrolling guards, aiming at releasing the Superforce imprisoned there. Clark is excited to have a cousin, since he knows Pete and Lana had cousins and sometimes he would get jealous of them having family. The kryptonite soon takes an effect on young Clark now that he doesn't have his K-shield anymore, and Kara helps him, wanting to get him back to his timeline. Clark remembers what Kara told her about Steelworks and how they were working on a cure, but Kara knows that John Henry will find one, but it won't be any use if Clark dies in the dungeons, since that will cause more problems than he thinks. This has been a really cool little pairing, and like I said in my review of the last issue, Kara is getting to fulfill her role as Kal-El's protector and guardian, something she never got to do with the older Superman since he got to Earth before her and she didn't arrive until some time later. It's also keeping her role as a main leader of the super family right now intact. She's actively helping the family by helping the young Clark, since without him, there is no Superman family, so she has a very important task ahead of her. Out at the kryptonite mines of El Caldero, Steel, Natasha, and Lana gain access to some of the El Calderon kryptonite, finding it is close to the stuff they saw in Smallville, and it's as if the meteor that landed there was some sort of sleeper agent. Natasha looks over the crystals, convinced that what they have there isn't actually kryptonite, at least not in the way they understand it. Lana agrees, since thanks to her kryptonite woman powers, she's absorbed too much of the radiation and now she can't turn it off, hoping that it's not something permanent. Nat finds a shard of the kryptonite that wasn't activated and thinks that they could use it to reverse engineer what was done to the other kryptonite pieces around the world and cause the K-Plague to become inert. Steel, though, doesn't think it's going to be that easy, since the key to stopping the spread of the kryptonite is right in front of them, and the only person who can unlock that code for them is ZOD. The General, meanwhile, visits the body of his dead wife Ursa, learning from Eradicatrix that the regeneration matrix is ready. ZOD is pleased to finally have the Sunstone Crystal, the Kryptonian technology, K-Zone, and his powers back, but it won't all be complete until his wife is back at his side. Eradicatrix asks if he's sure about this, since his powers are needed to fuel the Matrix, and it could leave him powerless again. ZOD knows that he has waited long enough, firing his heat vision into the Matrix. So bringing Ursa back to life wasn't something I thought he'd do. In fact, I thought the Eradicatrix was Ursa turned into an android, since they look very familiar, but Ursa coming back is great, and it's going to be interesting to see how she reacts, being that her and ZOD didn't really part on the greatest of terms. They were having a bit of a turbulent time in their relationship during Kneel Before Zod, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. As the Matrix is powered up, Ursa is returned to life, along with her powers. Zod is left without his, thanks to powering the Matrix. The woman remembers the Khund attacking New Kandor and not much else as Zod approaches her, telling his wife that he promised that they would see each other again. Zod tells her that they are on Earth in their new kingdom, which is in need of a queen to help destroy the Earth and build a new Krypton. Ursa spots the Eradicatrix, and Zod mentions that it was restored in her honor and image, which I guess means technically I was right and the Eradicatrix is Ursa. It's just a creation or, clone or doppelganger of Ursa created in her image. Zod tells his wife that everything he has done has been for her and this is their second chance, hoping that she can forgive him for failing her and their people on New Kandor. Ursa answers her question by punching her fist right through his chest, finding that Zod has forgotten himself, it seems, since General Zod would never ask for forgiveness. She finds that their time since Krypton's destruction has made him weak and pathetic, and Zod bleeds out on the floor, telling her that he gave them a new Krypton before dying. Okay, so talk about a huge twist. I never expected General Zod in an event called Kingdom of Zod to be killed off, but for it to happen at the hands of his wife, it's got some nice poetry to it. It also means Kingdom of Zod isn't actually referring to General Zod at all. It's more so like a blanket term for, his family, because obviously his wife is Ursa Zod. So she is now taking over the kingdom, I guess, which is very cool. There's also a lovely evolution of what Joe Casey did in Kneel Before Zod, which showed that Ursa was getting tired of her husband's way of doing things and how he kept trying to find a new way forward. He was kind of becoming a little bit more like Clark in that way, where he wasn't, outrightly destroying things and trying to take over the galaxy. He just wanted a life for him and his family on a planet that they could call their own. And Ursa hated that. Ursa was disgusted that he had been basically neutered, and she resented him a lot for that in that series. So I like that Williamson is paying that off here. It feels very rewarding having read Kneel Before Zod to see that payoff here. Didn't think we would see something like that here, being that Ursa died at the end of that series. But it's great. It's fantastic. I love it. Ursa says that she doesn't want a new Krypton since Krypton is as dead as Zod is now. Eradicatrix, who's all good with Zod being murdered in front of her, reveals that the past isn't as inaccessible as Ursa thinks, revealing the captured time bubble along with Booster Gold and how she can program the time bubble for Ursa to go back before her and Zod were imprisoned in the Phantom Zone by Jor-El for the first time. Ursa knows that they can now save Krypton and rule over it, but Booster tells him they can't mess with the timeline as Supergirl and Superboy find the chamber. Booster tells the heroes of what Ursa plans on doing with the time bubble as the villains board the ship, thinking that Kara will thank her for what she's about to do for her. Kara and Clark race to the ship and board it as it blasts off through time, and Booster tells Eradicatrix that if Ursa succeeds, then everything in time will be erased. So this event really took a swerve I didn't think it would be taking at all, and I'm all for it. It's made the book a lot less predictable than it was when it was just Zod trying to rule Earth from his kryptonite kingdom. We got Krypton maybe coming back in some form, time travel with the younger Clark getting involved, and Supergirl being there is really great too. It's keeping her in the forefront of the story and put her in a very important position of saving not just the young Superboy but also Krypton as well. Can't wait to see how Williamson and Sophie Campbell and Dan Slott and all of these other writers take this in the next issue of Supergirl. Superman issue 41 swerved the Kingdom of Zod into some really bonkers territory that I had no idea the book would be going into, and one I welcome wholeheartedly, as the story of Superman versus General Zod and his Kryptonite Kingdom definitely couldn't have sustained a 9-issue event series onto its own. It needed that extra little hook, and I think that Williamson and his team have found it. The love this series is showing to the Kneel Before Zod series by Joe Casey and how it's building off of Casey's characterization of Zod and his family in that book. Wonderful and greatly rewarding if you've actually read the series, which I highly recommend you do. Williamson keeping that as well as Supergirl front and center in a very important mission that the entire event hinges on is fantastic, and I cannot wait for the next issue next week. I'm going to give this issue a 9 out of 10.